This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. James, you asked the question today, are we living in a post-charter Canada? What are we talking about here?
Well, it's kind of interesting, and I think it's the greatest slice of serendipity that we had that clip from everyone's favorite Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying how shocked, appalled, and outraged he was that the notwithstanding clause had been used to, trample on a fundamental right, the right to strike. However, and this is the latest example of a provincial government using the notwithstanding clause to essentially drop the Charter of Rights into a paper shredder. However, I'm wondering what the Prime Minister is going to say on Monday, when I would hope he gets scrummed as diligently as he was today, when the Quebec Court of Appeal hears the appeal against Bill 21. Bill 21, as you recall, was challenged in court in 2019 in April of 2021. The presiding judge in Superior Court essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing here, this law is as unconstitutional as hell. However, it's protected by the notwithstanding clause. So I'm sorry, guys, but there's nothing I can do to help you with this. What the arguments will be on Monday, I don't know, but they will be fascinating as potential roadmaps to where we're heading to in this province, and as we can see next door in Ontario with this strike across the country. The notwithstanding clause was thrown in as, how can I put it, the typical Canadian compromise, and compromises, as we know, never end up pleasing no one. But it was a compromise to get some premiers on board saying, listen, we can't have the courts interpreting the laws, we can't have judges determining how our society is going to be. And we want to have an opting out clause that if something is too outrageous for our people in our province, well, by gum, we want to have that ejector seat. So, Mr. Trudeau Sr. decided, okay, you can have the notwithstanding clause. We'll allow you to do it. It'll be in effect for 5 years, and then you can, review it after 5 years and still, say if you want to keep the clause in effect or not. But using it in a preemptive fashion, as Doug Ford did twice, as Francois Legault has done twice, really should give us pause. I mean, we take a lot of our rights, we take a lot of things for granted, but certainly our rights are one of them. And the fact that we've seen rights such as the freedom of religion, rights to, not be immune from illegal search and seizure, which an element of Bill 96 is, it's flatly there. Bureaucrats can go in and look at your phone without a warrant. These things have fallout. These are not just things we get angry about on the radio. This is real. This is law. And it's illegal, but it's law because we have this notwithstanding clause. So will the larger debate be sparked on this? I don't know. I mean, in this day and age, people are so distracted by so many other things that they presume, well, it's going to happen to somebody else. It's not going to happen to me. And, of course, history has shown us those are famous last words. But once again, whether Francois Legault or a certain sector of Quebec commentators like it or not, Bill 21, the notwithstanding clause and fundamental rights, is going to be front and center in the news next week. It'll be interesting to see what the comments will be this time around.
So for people who missed the Premier, or the Prime Minister, rather, reacting to that today, a couple of clips. Take a listen to this one, Brian.
I think is a moment for all Canadians to reflect and say, yeah, our fundamental rights are not to be, cancelled away by governments who want to get things done in the easiest and most efficient way possible at the cost of people's fundamental freedoms.
Don't even know what to say to that, Jim, but you've outlined it well.
No, guys, be fair. I'm sure he said something similar when he was asked about Bill 21 the first time. Unfortunately, it didn't come out clear because he was hiding under his desk at the time.
There you go. All right.
He was whispering it.
Let's move on. Talk about Francois Legault today. What's going on?
It's not very often that I give a tip of the hat to Francois Legault. However, I will at this point. In our system of government, you have cabinet ministers, and you have what are referred to as parliamentary assistants. These are MNAs who are authorized to take questions meant for the minister or give certain comments on behalf of the minister. They're not full-blown ministers, as I say. They're referred to as les adjoints parlementaires, which I would rather clumsily translate as parliamentary assistants. Here's the problem. And by the way, they also get a $20,000 bounce on their salary because they do that. So it brings it up to about $150,000 a year. So here's the problem: they got 90 M&As, okay, which means because of regulations in the National Assembly, you can only appoint 20 parliamentary assistants. This leaves more than 20 other M&As with perhaps, how can I put it, nothing to do, no time on their hands. Now, when you have that big a caucus, you want to make sure everyone's happy, especially seeing as how maybe not everyone was vetted as closely as you'd like. You don't want someone 6 months down the road getting angry and perhaps calling reporters or mumbling something in the wrong place at the wrong time about how unhappy you are with the government. So what does Francois Legault do? He decides to create the position of governmental assistant. It's the same thing as a parliamentary assistant, except guess what? You don't get the $20,000 bump, although he says he's looking down the road at engaging in some parliamentary reform and having some form of compensation given to those 22 M&As who will now find themselves working in various ministries as parliamentary assistants in everything but name and salary. And on the one hand, as I say, it's nice to keep everybody happy. It's nice to keep your flanks secure because you're not entirely sure what can happen 6 months down the road with this big a caucus. On the other hand, though, I think it's a good idea. And I think it's a good idea because in government, as in employment, as in economics, one of the biggest losses we're seeing is not just in terms of labor, in terms of workers, it's expertise. And quite frankly, I think a lot of people, there are a lot of first-time M&As there. They've never done this before in their lives. They're completely, and they do get their little sort of protocols on, where to sit and how you ask questions and whatever. But the idea of being able to be involved in government rather than being, as Claire Samson, the disaffected CAC M&A said, being like a potted plant sitting in the National Assembly and not doing anything, I think is a good idea. I think it's the more people learn about how the system works and how it can be improved, I think in the end we're all going to benefit from it. So, as I say, I think on the one hand it's politically smart. Mr. Legault will not necessarily have to spend as much time looking over his shoulder at some potential loose cannon making headlines he doesn't want to see. But on the other, I think it is an excellent idea that all MNAs should not just have their day job, but also be involved, feel involved in the process of government and hopefully the process of improving our lives. Now, the jury's still kind of out on which side this government's going to fall on for most of us. But all that said, a good idea, and one I hope that doesn't go south for some reason. But all that, I can't see the opposition turning around saying this is a bad idea. And quite frankly, as I say, I haven't heard of it being done before. Certainly, here's another example of Francois Legault sidestepping the regulations. He just creates a new regulation. But in this particular instance, I think it's a good idea.
So just so that I understand, this would be kind of like for new guys on the block, right? Like you're not going to, or are they? Is he appointing people? These are
all the people who got elected in this round. The parliamentary assistant jobs with the $20,000 raise. Yeah, that's going to people who were first elected in 2018.
Okay.
So
so keep them hoping.
It's almost like a stage system, And some companies will turn around and say, well, you know what, you're in charge of making widgets over here, but I want you to spend a few days in this department learning how to make cadiddles because, listen, you have to know how the whole company works. And I think this is the equivalent of that. And as I say, an excellent idea.
What are they making in that department, Jim?
There's cadiddles and widgets.
Cadiddles?
Yeah.
Okay. No idea. I knew the widgets. I'd never heard of the cadiddles.
It's a very, very important thing.
There's also bindle spanners, and but anyway, I don't want to get into that. It's too technical.
Of course it is. Yeah, all that in Mr. Slate's gravel yards.
Yeah, well, that too.
James Mennie of the Montreal Gazette. Jim, have a good weekend.
You too, guys.